they'll be an owner for a year. They get up every day. They're in the office at 6 a.m. They're not home till 10 p.m. They have one day off in a whole year, and they're making $25,000-$30,000 a year. And then they get shut down. They have no money. It affects them. It affects their families. And that's what affected me the most. I like can't find it in myself to get on the phone every day and promote that type of opportunity to somebody when I know it's bullshit.
You've talked a couple times before, and I know in previous conversations you've talked about being a national admin trainer. I think you said you were there for about 5 years.
Yep.
And a lot of the people, when they get into this business, they have a general idea of what the admin does. They do the recruiting, make phone calls, send out the emails, and book interviews. But as a national admin trainer, what were your primary responsibilities?
So as an admin trainer, I mean, we're still responsible for maintaining home office or any offices that we're like directly connected to in terms of recruiting. So we do still book interviews, we do still screen applicants, all that stuff. But as a trainer, we're also mentoring and coaching all the other administrators across the division. And we're also training all of the new administrators as they're being hired. So if we have a home office, a lot of the times they'll fly new admins to us and they spend a week with us side by side training. Or I personally haven't been in the home office for the past 3 years, so I typically fly out to an admin and I spend a week side by side with them.
So at the height of your responsibilities, like about how many admins were you responsible for? Like several dozen or more than that?
At the height of my career as a trainer, I was mentoring, so pretty much directly responsible for 32 offices.
So the mentoring process, when you're mentoring and training admins, like what does that entail? Because I've spoken to a few admins recently, and they've pretty much identified it as a very scripted, very robotic position. So was it pretty much your job to get them sold on the scripts, or what were some of the other things you had to do?
I think the answer to that question is going to vary depending upon who you ask it to. But I mean, I think that was part of one of the things that started to like bring up red flags to me on the trainer side of the business is that there was no really definitive list of responsibilities that we had as trainers. The best way to answer that question, Alex, is kind of everything. Not only are we training them, but then we're responsible for breaking down their days verbally a minimum of 3 times a week. We have to respond to at least one AM or PM email breakdown per mentee every day. And we also do weekly mentor or trainer check-ins with Chelsea, who's the divisional recruiting manager. And we basically have to break down our whole crew with her. Hey, this is my crew. This is what we're working on. This is their negatives. These are their positives. This person's a A. This person's a B. I want to invest this amount of time into this person because of X, Y, and Z.
Now you mentioned just now your crew, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that in the sales side of the business, there is different levels. You start with entry level, trainer, assistant manager, owner, and then of course there's regional consultant, national consultant, etc. And I know you just didn't become national admin trainer. I'm sure that there were levels that you had to get through to do that too. Could you elaborate a little bit on the levels of getting to where you did?
Yeah, so shortly after, or before rather, I became an admin, Chelsea, as well as some of the NCs, have developed a program on the administrative side. It's called the Mentor Training Program. And essentially, we work through a tier of development phases, just like the owners do. So you go from entry level admin to junior mentor, from junior mentor to mentor, from mentor to trainer, and from trainer to national trainer.
Obviously each level, just like getting to leader and getting to owner, there had to be certain milestones, certain things that you had to accomplish. So was it basically a numbers game, how many interviews you booked, things like that that got you to those
Uh,
next levels?
Yeah, in order for you to even essentially like get on their radar, it's all about numbers. So obviously numbers are going to kind of reflect and determine like how you're able to progress through that program like all along the way. But essentially starting off, it's just all numbers focused as well as goals. They want to see like how locked in are you into the position, how locked in are you to the actual quote unquote opportunity, and are you able to produce consistent results? In terms of like results more specifically, the things that are really going to just kind of show us those things is, for one, like how effectively is an administrator able to manage their time throughout their day. People think that we just like sit there all day long and book interviews or make phone calls, but there's so much more that goes into it than that. A lot of tracking, a lot of problem solving, a lot of networking. Like I said, we're required to be responsible for like all the college recruiting, ad posting. So it does get pretty intense. As a trainer, there was a point where I had 97 scheduled conference calls every week, on top of doing everything I was doing. So I mean, it consists of a lot of different things. And once we see that an individual can manage all those things effectively throughout their day, that's when we're going to look at the actual results. So volume, is this individual able to book the consistent amount of volume that we need them to book? Which is typically what is expected is 50% of their call list or more. So 50% of all the applicants that are coming into their list are expected to be booked for interviews. Obviously, like realistic and like some of the big markets, Chicago, Atlanta, these like San Antonio, LA, they're getting anywhere from like 1 to 250, 300 names every single day. So, I mean, once we screen, scrub, make the appropriate phone calls, technically, like a typical owner's goal is going to be about 25 booked every day. And then we're also going to look at retention. So of those 25 interviews, how many is the admin able to effectively impulse to get to come into the door? So they expect 50% of those people to show up. Now, as a national trainer, our standards are obviously a little bit higher. They were expecting like 60 to 80% from us, of people getting through the door. So if an individual is expected to book 25 a day, 50%, we're expecting 12 to 13 show. They want at least 50% of those to be passed on to seconds. So it's going to be 6 to 7 a day. Of those seconds, an owner should be able to properly impulse and close 80% or higher. Of those 80%, they should hire another 80%. So it's all just kind of a numbers game, and that's basically what we look at, like how consistent can that admin produce those results, and are they even able to effectively do so. Once they see that you're able to produce consistent results and they kind of are able to identify what your goals are in the business, that's when you're able to move into like more of a junior mentor program or a junior mentor position. In the junior mentor position, you do not get paid any additional money. And what you do at that point, you're required to maintain all of your numbers, obviously be able to produce results for home base. And then that's where they start teaching you how to coach other admins. So essentially, they'll shadow, like if I had a junior mentor on my call or on my crew, they would shadow me on all my breakdown calls as a silent listener. So in other words, as I would break down all these guys' days, they would listen in, and they would kind of want to see, how do I go into a conversation with an administrator? How do I identify negatives? How do I draw them out? How do I help them problem solve? How do I build relationships with admins on my crew? And then once we see that they're able to really identify the structure of what it is we're doing, and we start to kind of gain a certain level of confidence in their ability to problem solve, that's when we allow somebody to move into more of a mentor role. So as a mentor, that's when they start to develop their own crew. We start to give them new hires. When I did have like 32 guys on my crew, obviously that was a lot of people. So as I would train new people, instead of them being added to my crew, I would add those people to my junior mentors crew or my mentors crew, and they would mentor them. Once we see that somebody's able to consistently help other admins problem solve and produce results, not only for the admins that they're coaching, but maintain home office as well, that's when an individual is able to move into more of a training role. Training is essentially the same thing. All you're doing is maintaining home office, coaching, and mentoring other admins. And that's where you get the opportunity to finally actually make a little bit of extra money and start training other admins.
So what's the end game? Because I know in the sales side, you're promised this pipe dream of you get to owner and you call the shots and you make six figures a year. So what's the motivation to become, like you just said, you only get a little bit more money toward the end. So what do they dangle?
It's very similar to the owner side. They promote like a six-figure salary or a potential like six-figure earning income. But I mean, to be 100% honest, it's just over promoted and under delivered. They say that on average, a trainer is going to make an additional $10,000 a year on top of the income they're already making for home office. But my first year as a trainer, I didn't see anywhere near that. It was like 3,000 extra. And then I would say the biggest thing is as you develop skill sets and you become a trainer, by the time you've typically have reached a trainer's role, they have promoted you so much within the division that at that point, all the owners know who you are. They know who you are. They know what your skill sets are. They know what you're capable of. So other opportunities start to kind of arise for you. And that's where like the true like entrepreneurship like mindset comes out. And so I mean you have opportunities to earn income in different ways, whether it be like remote booking, posting ads. I've actually gotten paid to like mentor certain admins just based upon like my agreement with owners or whatever. But the thing is like, I mean, obviously you taking on all those additional things, you're going to be working a lot more.
Sure. The admin is typically the face of the business. I've talked to a couple admins who say that they're kind of the normal looking side of the business. They make it appear as a legitimate business. Um, so what? Well, and let me backtrack. And one of the things that they've mentioned is there are specific people that are being targeted to get into the business as sales reps. And sometimes that's explicitly stated, sometimes it's kind of implicitly stated by owners. Was there ever like a feeling that either you heard from Chelsea and the other higher ups, or that you gave to the people on your crew about who to look for specifically?
Yes, we're definitely targeting like the millennials and the college grads. However, I would say because the college grads are so protected through like college job boards, a lot of the college career centers are pretty aggressive with companies like ours. The actual ad posters don't really post very much on college boards. So what they do is they try to get really strategic with the wording of the ads. They're searching for specific impulsive words that are directive towards this specific millennial group or whatever you want to call them to pull these applicants. Now, from the administrative side, that's where an in-house admin is typically required to get more aggressive with college recruiting. You have to a lot of the time post from a local IP, things like that. So obviously, like call it, we only had four ad posters nationwide, so not very many of them are actually going to be local to that office. So that's what we were doing. Now, in terms of like actually attracting them once they walk through the door, I think that's just part of the reason they hired like these young hip administrators. It's kind of like that Jones effect, I guess you could call it. And once they see these like fun young in-house admins, it becomes almost like an image and a brand. So that's the reason these guys put the Bluetooth speakers in the lobbies. That's the reason why they put on this fun hip music and have so much energy. It's all just kind of a way to attract the right type of person. I think that's going to vary dependent upon the owner that you're working with. There's been some owners that I've worked with that are very open-minded, that genuinely like really do just want to focus on providing opportunities for individuals and growing their own business. And then there's other owners that aren't. So I think the answer to that question would be yes. I have received feedback like that from not only owners, but my direct supervisors, which would be like Chelsea, things like that, to avoid people of certain races, definitely people of certain age groups for sure, people who have kids because they think that because somebody has kids, they're not going to commit what they need to commit to the program to be able to be successful in it. So yeah, for sure, I would say 100%.
And you brought up not hiring people of specific races and things like that. And you may have seen the post that we put up, which was a text conversation with an owner who explicitly stated that. And it's stunning because in a normal HR environment, you can't get away with stuff like that. If there was even an accusation of something that was stated, and in this case written, you're gone. You've got an investigation probably into you.
Yep.
So first, to follow up on that, I know you said it kind of varies, but did you see a lot of that in your time? Is it kind of
Oh yeah,
widespread? Yeah.
I would say of the owners that I worked with, which was after 5 years, and I mean being a national trainer, I worked with almost every owner in the division there is. I've worked with the NCs, I've worked with the RCs. I would say there's a very small percentage of them that are open-minded. I would say out of about the 70 roadshow owners they have right now, we had like 200 at one point. I would say only about 10% of them aren't like that.
Wow. So I mean, I think I already know the answer to this, but how can they get away with that? How is that accepted in the business?
So that's something I've actually heard Chelsea coach owners on, like on conference calls, specifically telling owners, "Hey, like, let's not ever put this in an email." Part of our jobs as like mentors and trainers, I was on all the owners' recruiting calls. I was like their main point of contact. If they couldn't get results from me, then that's when they would go to like Chelsea or somebody else. But like if we're digging in on a recruiting call with an owner and we're seeing that maybe the biggest weakness in their recruiting funnel is like back end, whether it's like conversions or something like that, the first question we're gonna ask them is why. Like, why aren't we sending people to second rounds? Why aren't we able to hit goals for the back end funnel to produce new hires for your business? And you'll get direct feedback from owners. Oh, they were just a bunch of old people who came in. Oh, they were ghetto, quote unquote ghetto. That's like not a realistic or like ethical answer to provide to somebody. And yeah, I have directly seen Chelsea coach admins or owners like, hey, let's be really careful like how we word that, and please don't ever put that in writing.
There's such an astonishing amount of control in this business. Like it's something I've never seen before. Like when I was in it, I knew that there was a lot of control from the owners going on down. But just through all these people I've talked to, and you've illuminated a lot too, everything is so controlled. I mean, it represents, they call it a business, but it represents more, it appears more like a totalitarian, you know, dictatorship in a sense, that there's these certain rules. You can't do certain things. If you do certain things, people can report you, and then it's just such a bizarre way to run things.
You're 100% right. I mean, it's everything's controlled from the higher ups. I mean, we all know where all the feedback and all these policies or procedures come into play from. And you're right. I mean, everything's very much so controlled, and they call it like an entrepreneurship program, but there's like no entrepreneurship in it. Like, to me, an entrepreneur is somebody who's independent, somebody who can make decisions and be able to confidently like back those up. Somebody who's going to like learn their own way and make mistakes and mess up and kind of develop as they go. And this program is the exact opposite.
So you mentioned earlier red flags. One of them being you noticed there were no definitive responsibilities. But you were there for 5 years, so you were in deep. You were there for quite a while. What were some of the things that finally got you to recognize, what's going on here, and maybe I really don't want to be involved in this anymore.
So, I mean, starting off, it was great. I mean, I loved the business. I loved my position. I loved the opportunity to like help other people grow and advance and reach their goals. I had quite a few people on my crew who advanced into like mentorship roles, as well as I did promote like one trainer underneath me also. But the biggest red flags for me, and the thing that started to really um, create or like point doubts out in myself was when I started to see so many owners that I had worked with for so long get shut down. And these were owners who I've worked side by side with, and I've never seen anybody in my life, Alex, work as hard as these people do. I mean, they'll be an owner for a year. They get up every day. They're in the office at 6 a.m. They're not home till 10 p.m. They have one day off in a whole year, and they're making $25,000-$30,000 a year. And then they get shut down. They have no money. It affects them. It affects their families, and that's what affected me the most. I like can't find it in myself to get on the phone every day and promote that type of opportunity to somebody when I know it's bullshit. Basically, the 2 to 3 key points in the administrative presentation is, yeah, so we do high-end marketing here for various different clients here on a nationwide scale. We're one of the largest and fastest growing firms in the region. We're expanding so much, da 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 da. We're looking to bring qualified people on to cross train into an executive position. And I think that Alex, after saying that for like 5.5 years and like seeing realistically the LOAs play out, like I couldn't say it to anybody else. Like realistically, maybe 3% of those people who, if they're even brought on, will ever even make it to an owner. And if they do become an owner, 9 out of 10 of those are being shut down. So it's just like it's not a it's not a realistic representation of what they're doing.
And the operative word you used is get shut down. You didn't say quit. You said get shut down. So that implies someone else made that decision for them.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, that's how it happens. Very few of the owners actually like voluntarily leave the business. 9 times out of 10, it's because they lost most of their reps because when they transitioned offices, it just wasn't done right. Um, Maybe the owner who they got promoted out of, maybe Smart Circle was trying to shut them down, which is how actually happened to my home office. So because they were trying to shut down my home office, they promoted out our assistant manager very quickly. They didn't give her the training she needed. They didn't set her up for success. And because of that, she ended up getting shut down. Whether it be like inventory shorts, whether it be which is probably the biggest thing I see is inventory or payroll issues. I know they're shutting a lot of owners down right now for compliance and payroll issues, trying to avoid like legal cases because I guess a lot of the owners weren't paying reps and other people who were working for them legally the way they should. Which I guess that for sure falls on the owner. But hey, at the same time, I kind of look at it like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you only know what you're trained to do, and if you're trained to manipulate and not report income or something like that, I mean, what do you expect? You're going to follow exactly the same pattern. And you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that there were up to 200 owners at one time. Now there are 70. That seems like a
Yep.
very stark a decrease. And I know you just said that they're starting to close a lot of offices. So what is the reason behind that huge dip?
So, yeah, we were up to close to about 200 offices. I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago when I first became a trainer. Part of our contracts with Sam's Club, or their contracts rather with Sam's Club, they actually promise to grow a certain amount every year.
Hmm.
And I think the biggest thing that is affecting the owners and the size of the division overall is the inventory. Yes, the roadshow side of it has shrunk, and they've gone from 200 to 70 owners, but like DTV, makeup, Verizon, mobility, clean air, all those divisions are booming.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to stray from the product based division where it gives owners the opportunity to come up with inventory shorts, and they're trying to focus more on service based where they don't have to deal with it.
So I know that you've told other people about our film and these interviews.
Mm-hmm.
I got an email from someone who knew you, and they said, "quote He finally sees how evil they are." And I kind of had to chuckle at that because that tells me at one point, and to be in there for 5 years, you'd have to be that you were really a champion of this, and you were a driving force behind this business. But you've seen something different now, and you're kind of advocating because you've let other people know, and been contacted by others who want to share their stories as well. So how were you able to come to terms with that? Like personally on a mental level, because I've talked to a lot of owners who are like, I couldn't come to terms with it originally. Like it took me a long time to really
I'm
get to that.
still working on it,
Are you?
Alex, honestly. So I left it's been about 2 months since I've been gone, and I'm still kind of coming to terms with it. I mean, honestly, Chelsea, some of the other my mentors, you develop such a relationship with those people. You work so closely with them, and I mean, let's be honest. Everybody knows in this business, you work so much that it becomes your life.
Yeah.
And the people in the business, they almost become your family. And to find out that all these people who I thought I could trust and could give me feedback and were there to help me be successful and become better, to find out that in the end it's all just fake, like it's all bullshit. It's one from one facade to another, one person sugarcoating something from another. Like it 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 hurts you pretty much, Alex, on almost a personal level.
Yeah.
And it's kind of heartbreaking. And to invest 5 years into the business and give it everything you've had, because you're expecting to get yourself and your family to a certain point and you want a certain payback from it, and to never get that, it's almost just like, whoa, like, what did I do with the past 5 years of my life? Like,
Yeah.
why did it take me so long?
Something that a lot of people have shared with me is like you said, you don't want to lose it because you've put so much into it, and it's hard to come to terms with that. But because you work so much and you work so hard, you are probably ahead of other people in terms of skill sets for actual opportunities. So like for someone like you who was in the business as long as you were, or for anyone else who was an owner or an admin for 6 months, a year, what have you, what do you think, what skills do you all have that makes you marketable now through this experience?
So many, so many. I would say the biggest thing I took away from it, Alex, is work ethic.
Yeah.
I mean, I've started a new position. I've been there 2 months. I'm very high up in the position. And coming in, they offered me a salaried position, making over double what I was making at Smart Circle to start. And the thing is, Alex, is I come into this business and there's people who have been in there for years, and I could outwork any of them.
Wow.
There's none of them can even shed a candle to what I can do. I can outwork anybody. I can out problem solve anybody. Um, and I have a positive mentality. I was kind of taught to have a positive mentality for sure by Smart Circle, but I've always been somewhat of a positive person. But to go from where I was at 2 months ago to where I'm at now, it only just makes everything that much. The momentum is built. So now it's just like I'm even more positive because I'm like, oh my God, I should have did this like 4 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. So you contacted us. You were very adamant about sharing your story. What do you want people to get out of your experience in this business?
Um, the biggest thing is I just want people to kind of know the truth. If I could save somebody that's in the business now 4 years of their life or however long I mean, I don't know what their future holds for them, but if I could show them the truth sooner, then that's what I want to do. I want people to know the amount of stress and heartache and pain and work and tears you're going to go through in that business. And at the end of the day, just like almost every owner who has made a video on your page, also, I left with nothing. You know what I mean? And if I could save anybody from having to go through that, that's all I want.
Do you know, have there been any, because you were a very high, I guess called high ranking individual.
Hmm.
That's exactly who you were. Has there been any, do you know, has there been any damage control about your departure?
No, so it's ironically enough, they're very nice.
Hmm.
I spoke to Chelsea. I spoke to my other mentor. I don't want to mention her name. She's a great woman. Um, I spoke to Larissa, and ironically enough, none of them tried to get me to stay. But they were very nice. All of them offered me letters of recommendation, and even though I had already found a new job, and like the week before, they were like basically screaming on at me on the phone, um, and I hadn't even spoke to them since then. But then, like once I made the phone call and I was like, "I'm leaving," they were like super nice and very positive about it. And I could just tell. I was like, you guys, and they were like, yeah, we really mean that. And I directly called Chelsea out leaving. I said, you don't mean that. Like, you and I both know you're full of bullshit. You tried to sabotage my career. Like, let's just be honest here for once. Like, in the 5 years we've known each other, like, you could give a shit less about me. Like, all you're just here to get what's best for you. I was like, I just want to take the skill sets that I've learned and just walk away from this. I mean, I had a lot of great relationships in that business. I definitely learned a lot, like I said, and that business gave me the skill sets that I needed to be a beast. Like I said, I've never had so many job offers in my life as I've
Right.
had the last 2 months. I'm making better money than I've ever made, which I can probably thank the opportunity for sure. It definitely got me there. But I mean, I sacrificed a lot over the past 5 years. So I just feel like this is kind of my payoff. I didn't get it from them, but I'm getting it somewhere else.
Yeah.
I just want people to know the truth. I want these admins to know, like, every day when you get on the phone and you talk to those applicants on the other end of the phone, if you're not confident in what you're saying to them and if you don't believe in the opportunity, you shouldn't be making those phone calls.
Yeah. And what you just said, I've heard from other people too who say that, we tend to paint the business in a negative light because we have all these horror stories, but there is some value in it. If you want to learn sales, you will learn sales. Like you said, work ethic. They preach work ethic from day one. They overuse it. They use it in a way that benefits them instead of you. But yeah, you learn to outwork everybody else.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, I think one way to look at it is if you go in, and that's really the one thing I want to accomplish with all of these videos, is it's great that I'm hearing from people that worked in it and want to share their story, but I want to get this in front of people before they get in the business.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to do that. I don't know if there is a way to do that, but that is where the most value comes from. Because if you can go into an interview with one of these companies after hearing all these stories and knowing, okay, they use manipulation tactics, they use brainwashing tactics, I'm going to be overworked, I'm going to be underpaid, there's nothing at the end of the rainbow, but I can learn some good skills from it, I'm going to give it a shot. Go for it. I mean, I'm not telling anyone not to go into this business, but know the information. Get all the accurate information about it first, not the brainwashing BS that all these offices give you. So yeah, I would say yeah, there's definitely some value to it as long as you know how to manage it.
And I think that you could execute that too, Alex, if you do it right. I would say their biggest resource for people before they come in for an interview or before they're hired is going to be Glassdoor.
Yeah.
Uh, so if you could like get aggressive with getting on companies' glass doors and maybe just like providing a link to your page or something like that that won't get flagged or removed, where people can actually go on there and check it out before coming into interviews, that would be huge. The thing about Glassdoor is as long as you adhere to their policies, there's nothing the companies can do about reviews you post.
Right.
They can't remove them, they can't flag them, any of that. So I agree with you. I think the biggest thing is going to be just kind of stopping it in its tracks.
Yeah. I mean, if they can use Glassdoor to pervert their own reviews, I mean, I think using it to put up something accurate is a great idea. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Um, and I mean, social media, yeah, you could always use
Yeah.
social media too, but obviously they have social media managers. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I could almost promise you anything you put on social media is probably just going to get removed immediately.
Oh, of course.
But Glassdoor, they can't do anything about.
Yeah. And ripoff reports too. Ripoff reports are very good. Yeah, they don't. It might take a while to find them in the search results, but yeah, those I've found are very descriptive of what these companies are actually doing.